Okay, I haven't made a video in a while, and I thought I would make something kind of fun and a little off the beaten path of what you're used to seeing from me. So back in the day, I used to customize Hot Wheels, and there's nothing cooler than gifting someone a Hot Wheel in the original package that has their logo on it or their name on it, and it's still in the package, and they just flip out. And it's not that difficult to do. I'm going to show you how to do one very simply that you can do in a matter of less than an hour. You can get very complicated in this. So, one of the more popular customizations people used to do is they used to take this Combi bus, and then they used to take the engine out of this VW Beetle, okay, combine these two, change the wheels, on the Combi bus and turn it into something like this. Okay, so the wheels are different. You can see that the engine is different on the custom. The paint job is different. It has a custom decal on it. So you can get that complex if you really wanted to. And I will give you some tips on how to do that. You can even get a regular van like this. And imagine if you just took off all of the decals that are on it, stripped it, and repainted it and then threw a decal on it and put it back in the package. And that's part of the secret is, hey, how do you put this back in the package to make it look like it came straight from Mattel? So let's get down to it. Let me give you some secrets. I'm going to customize this truck for a friend of mine. He runs a business called Emilio's Upholstery here in Grants Pass. So we're going to do something with him. So first things first. Hey, you can see I've already separated the blister pack from the cardboard. How does that happen? Well, the way to do that, the big secret, so to speak, is this is cardboard on the back. There's just an adhesive. It's not really heat pressed on. There's an adhesive that holds the blister pack on. So what you do is along the edges here of the blister pack, you dip a little bit of acetone. And I would use pure acetone, and I would also make sure that the acetone is clear. If you use a different acetone like pink or something like that, it's going to bleed through and the color is going to show on the other side and it's not going to look good. So you take acetone, I have a little eyedropper and I put acetone along the sides, just a couple of layers, and just wait a minute or so, and then it will dissolve the adhesive, and then you can pop open the blister and boom. The car comes right out, okay? And then if you see, even though some of the lettering is lifted off, it does not matter because we're going to use white glue that dries clear to glue this back on. And that's how you take a card of a blister and you put it back in, okay? If your card has some imperfections in it, like maybe some marring or whatever, you can always, like on this one, it had some imperfections, some marring in it, and I clear coated it. So just put blue tape here to seal off the blister and just put a small, very thin layer of clear coat over it, and it'll come out looking like new. So there's another little tip, okay? So here we have our truck. Now I already did the other side. You can see the decal's gone. So here's the deal. If you were going to repaint this, you'd want to use paint stripper to strip away the paint. And in order to do that, you're not going to want to dip this whole thing. So what you would do is you would take a 9/64 inch drill bit and just kind of drill out the little rivets. Okay. Once you drill out the little rivets, you would use a 1/16 inch bit to drill a little pilot hole into the stem that's there. And I'll show you what this looks like on one of these other cars real quick here. Okay, so here's one that I've taken apart, and you can see I've drilled out the rivets, and then I drilled 1/16 inch pilot holes. You got to use brand new, really sharp bits for this, and you want to keep them as straight as possible. And the reason for that is then you're going to use a 1/16 inch tap to tap the pilot holes that you drilled, and then this way you can use 1/8 inch 256 screws to hold the body back onto the chassis, and it will look just like that. Very professional. Okay. Then what you would do is, then you would dump the body completely in paint stripper and strip the body down to the bare metal, and then that way you can produce a good paint job on it. Polish the metal if you want something bright, or put primer on it and paint away. I like to use decals, so I usually put a base coat of paint on these things and then print my own decals. So that's just some more tips, some more secrets. But if you didn't want to go through all that, let's say you just like the model just the way it is, including the color, and you didn't want to hassle with taking this apart. This is what I mean. You can do this in less than an hour. I've already showed you how to take this out of the blister pack, and now all we have to do is take the decal off. Okay? And what do we do to take the decal off? I use this, lighter fluid. Some people use, and you can get away with using expo markers. They have enough of a solvent in them where it will dissolve the decal. I like to use wiper fluid. It's really easy to use. You're going to see, we'll just dip some lighter fluid on here. And by the way, lighter fluid is also what I use to take stickers off of things, of cardboard. Sometimes you get price stickers that don't come off all the way. Well, lighter fluid will dissolve the sticker residue, and that's basically what it's doing here. Okay, so I put lighter fluid, I leave it on for a few seconds, and then you're going to see that if you rub it in, see, you can see the decal already starting to dissolve off. So let's take this decal all the way off. You see how it's coming off? Okay, and it's leaving the paint intact. Okay, you get the idea. All right, I'm not going to waste a lot of video. It'll take just a couple more minutes just to get the rest of the little adhesive off, but it doesn't take much. And there you go. You got the decal off, the paint is intact. Now you can print your own decals. And when you paint your decal, and when you print your decals, one thing I would suggest is you print your decals out on a really good inkjet printer. I would suggest you use white decal paper because it has the white backing. If you use transparent, the colors will bleed through and you may not see your decal. So you print your decal out, lay a small layer of clear coat on the decal. That way it doesn't run when you put it in water to take it off. You put about 3 very light coats of clear on the decal, cut it out, put it in water, slide the decal on. And now you have a model with the decal on it that's customized. Put your friend's name on it, your son's name on it, your daughter's name on it, whatever. But that would make a really cool custom car. And you make a couple of decals. So you put one decal on the car and then put another decal that's custom for them inside here. So it lines up just at the top. So like I said, there's nothing cooler than getting the Hot Wheel that's customized in the blister pack with their name or their business or whatever customized on the card and on the car itself. So easy to do. You saw how quick that was? I'm going to print a decal for this, but I'm going to also paint this. The other things you can do if you take this apart is you can change the wheels. That takes a little more experience. There's other videos online that shows you how to customize Hot Wheels, show you how to change the wheels, how to customize the chassis, drop the car, lift the car. It basically involves getting some little copper tubing and new wheels for the car. So anyways, let me put a little paint job on here and a new decal on here, and I'll show you how this looks when it's done. And you know, like I say, I hope you get something out of this video that's really easy to do and really will make someone's day. All right, so stay tuned and we'll wrap this up. Okay, so you can skip this part if you like, but I'm going to show you how I go ahead and strip the paint, take the body off, all that stuff. So in order to make cleaning up a lot easier, I'm just going to put a little paper in place there. Okay, so this is a 9/64 drill bit, and I'm going to go at a 90-degree angle here. Okay, totally vertical on that rivet. Okay, and that should take most of the head of the rivet off for you to pop off the bottom of the chassis here. Okay, you don't want to go too deep with it, just enough so this thing can, the bottom can pop out. And also, one thing that I didn't do, that I sometimes do, but I've done this so much now that it doesn't impact me much. The rivets that are there have a little tiny divot in it, a little tiny hole in it. You might want to use that to start the 1/16 inch hole that you're going to tap out later, and that way it's already set and straight for you right down the middle of the stem. And you'll see what I mean when I start getting this thing off. Okay, as soon as you start seeing a little bit of plastic on your bit, that's when you really need to stop. Okay, and then you can basically get something underneath the plastic there. I'm not worried about the paint because we're going to be painting this. Okay, see how that popped right out? Once you get one side going, you can probably do the other. I'm going to change the wheels also, so I'm not too worried about the wheels bending. But anyways, you saw how that just popped out. So you got two clean holes here. Okay, so we'll put that aside. And then you can take the rest of this chassis out relatively easy here. Okay. So there's that. Don't forget the glass. Let's take the glass out. You don't want to damage the glass. All right. And so in this case, we're not going to tear out the hood here because I'm afraid that I'll snap the hinges and I won't be able to get it back on, or we'll just break it and it'll be irreparable. So we're just going to go ahead and paint it just like this. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to strip this paint off. Yeah, you can paint over it. Primer it first because the paint's really shiny, but we're going to go ahead and strip the paint with paint stripper, okay, and then get it down to metal, and then we'll primer it, and then we'll figure out what color we want to paint it, okay. Then you also have the chassis. You can leave the wheels on, but they're plastic. I use a chrome pen if they're not already chromed on some wheels, but in this case, we're going to take the wheels off and then see if we can't replace them with rubber wheels and also a nicer looking mag wheel to it. So, all right, so let's see what we can drum up. And you can buy wheels on eBay, just make sure you get the right sizes. All right, so let's go on next. But before we do that, let me also show you. So these are the stems, okay, that are pretty long in this case. In many cases, they're not this long, so you don't have much room. You have to be really careful how deep you go with the drill bit. And again, for those, we're going to use a 1/16 inch bit because we're going to tap it. Okay, for a 256 screw, that's really, really small. Make sure you're using very sharp bits. I don't usually reuse bits more than like 3 or 4 cars because they start getting dull, and that makes a huge difference. But here's where you have to be careful. This has to, and that's why I say there was a divot in here before we took the top of the rivet out. You can use that divot as your guide for centering your drill. Okay, and we just start drilling a hole. Probably no more than, in this case we have a long stem, so I'm going to go a little deep, but usually you don't want to go as deeper than the body, else your drill will go right straight through the body, and that's not what you want. You have a hole on the other side. So this metal is called Zamac. It's like pot metal, so it drills really easy, but make sure, you know, after you get your drill bit in there just a little bit, that you clean the bit, because you can see This thing can focus that the bit's a bit got metal kind of, I don't want to say melted onto it, but adhered onto it pretty well. So you want to make sure you keep your bit very clean after a couple of passes. Okay, I think that's pretty good with the depth that we have on here. You'll see that the screws that I use aren't very deep. So okay, so the next thing I do now is I have a 1/16 tap. Okay, so I start tapping this thing in. And you can use a little bit of oil on here to make tapping a little bit easier. This tap is pretty new though, so it's pretty sharp already. Okay, I bottomed out right there. You don't necessarily also want to bottom out your tap on the first go. Do it in a little bit of layers. Tap a little. Once you get a bite, tap a little bit more and then start taking it out and cleaning it. This is a very fine thread, so it's easy to strip it if you go crazy with the tap. If the tap gets stuck, don't panic. Just wiggle a little more tighter, a little looser, a little tighter. Don't bend it. Whatever you do, keep it as straight as possible. Because if you bend it, you will break the tap because it's a very thin tap. You will break it inside the stem and you're kind of a lost cause at that point. It's not exactly a complete loss. You can always glue epoxy the thing on back to the bottom of the chassis. So it's not a complete lost cause, but it's not going to look nice not having the screws in there. That's all. Okay. So now we got it tapped. These are the screws that I use. Okay. 256, 316. All right. Oops. So that's how small the little screw is. And these screws come with a T8 hex or torque. Okay, so that's what the head is. And then I just kind of start it. And there we go. So that's how it's going to screw on back. That's how the base is going to screw back on. Okay. So I just test both sides just to make sure. And then we'll be all set to strip. Okay, now to strip paint. I use this Rust-Oleum aircraft remover. Very strong, very caustic. I don't know. You know, it's bad. So some folks use a lemon kind of paint stripper that's a little less toxic, a little less harsh. And that's fine. Everybody has their style. I've always used this because it's very quick, and I'm rather careful with it. You know, after doing this for many years, you kind of get, I don't want to say complacent. You kind of get a little bit more respect for the things that you're using. So I basically do a little bit on the inside, and then I shower. Basically, I put a lot on the outside, and then you just wait a couple of minutes, and the paint will just start coming right off. Make sure you're wearing gloves, of course. Again, you might want to find something less harsh, especially if you're just doing this for the first time. You don't want to get the stuff anywhere outside of what you're working with. And even though I have gloves on, I still attempt not to touch the stripper, okay? Okay, I think we rolled this enough, so to speak, and we'll just leave it here for a few minutes and then just come back to it. Okay, so it's been a few minutes. Now, make sure you're in a ventilated room. I hope that goes without saying, but nonetheless, I better say it anyways. The other is I usually put some cellophane or something, or plastic something, I should say, over this to keep the vapors in and help it accelerate, but I think you can see what has happened to this right now. That the paint is just peeling itself off. So we'll leave this here for another little while, and then what I will do at that point is throw it under soapy water to take the reaction from the stripper away, and then I use a wire brush to take off whatever small remnants of paint are still stubbornly stuck on. All right, so that's what we got. I basically took a wire brush and took out any little tiny specks of paint that were still on there, and then I used some steel wool to basically just smooth it out, finish it off. So now we're ready to decide on how we're going to paint this. So I've been into flat black recently. So maybe flat black. That way I can use a paint that's, heck, I don't have to use my airbrush. You can use Rust-Oleum flat black primer. It's a primer and a paint all in one. Save a lot of time doing it that way. And then after you put the decals on, you just coat it over with matte clear. So maybe we might do that. I don't know. I'll have to think about it. First, I'm going to print out the logo and see what colors I come out with. And then I have to choose new wheels for these. I don't want to leave these wheels. Again, you don't have to go through all of this. I showed you how to take the decal off. It's a matter of just putting a decal on, maybe putting a little layer of clear coat over it. So, you know, just to finish it off, but and then you're done. This is because we're going through all of these steps. I want to at least do this right. There's no sense in going through all of this, constant painting it, and leaving the same crappy wheels on there, right? All right, so stay tuned. Okay, so I'm going to take the easy way out and paint this flat black. So I'm going to put flat black. I'm going to use Rust-Oleum. It's already a primer and a paint. Just going to put thin coats at first. And ultimately, I'm going to put 3 coats, just 1 coat inside, but then on the outside, I'm going to do 1 small light coat, and then wait 20 minutes for it to dry, put another little more heavier coat, wait 20 minutes to dry, and put 1 more coat on. And then I'm going to put some clear coat over it to make the decals we're going to put on easy to slide. And flat black creates little pockets of air, so if you're using decals, you know, you'll want to put a little clear coat or some future polish to smooth out wherever you're going to put the decals, so it'll cover up those holes and make the decal adhere much nicer. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this real quick here. Okay, again, just light coats at first, wait for it to dry, be patient, and then put on little bit heavier coat on the second and third, okay? All right, so be right back. Okay, so finished painting the truck, flat black, but there is a gloss coat on it in order to apply the decal. Let me explain something. If you apply decals flat black, the way that you see flat black as a matte kind of finish is because it has little pores in it, so that the light hits those pores and it makes it look matte. What happens though is if you put decal on the matte finish, is they create little air bubbles on the decal because of the pores, and so the decal then becomes basically hazy, foggy, if you will, because of the air bubbles underneath. Very hard to get rid of them. So what some folks do, like me, they'll either put future polish on it, brush it on, and it gives you a glossy surface. Pledge. I just go ahead and just use a gloss clear coat on it, because I'm going to apply the decal, and then I'm going to matte paint it with a matte clear coat after it anyways, so any gloss will go away. So what I did here basically is I didn't use an airbrush. I used a flat black Rust-Oleum paint. So I did a light coat and then two little heavier coats, but not heavy, just a little heavier than light. After that, I applied, and I waited about 15 minutes between each coat. The flat black paint dries very quickly. Then I applied Rust-Oleum gloss clear on it, only on the sides. That's where I'm going to apply the decals. Okay. And then once I apply the decals, I'm going to go and put a few coats of this, again, very, very light coat initially. Otherwise, you'll get runs in the paint. But I'll apply the matte. That'll bring that glossiness back to a flat look. So we'll have a flat black truck in the end with the decals, and it'll also provide protection for the decals I'm going to put on there. So I printed the decals out on decal paper. I used white decal paper because this is flat black paint. If you use clear decal paper, you're not going to have enough opacity, enough backing behind the paint where the color will just seep through into the black, and you're not going to see it. It's going to come out very poor. So I used white decal paper. And then I'm going to go cut the decals that I need out of this. And I use a background on the decals that's close to a flat black kind of color. So that way, after I put the matte clear on it, it'll kind of blend in. And if I show some of the white edges from the paper from cutting it out, I can just use a very thin little tiny paintbrush bristle to just cover the white paper with the black, flat black paint. So that's what I'm going to do next. Basically, get some warm water, cut the decals to the size that I want. It's going to go basically on the side panel right here. Apply the decal, and then I'll put one more on the back. That's what these are for right here. I'm not sure which color, so that's why I have two different colors. And then this white, this clear is going to go inside the blister pack. So that's the game plan. Okay, let's get to applying some decals here. Just so you know, the decals are printed on an inkjet printer, and it's a Canon P100, so it's a professional grade photo printer. That's why they come out so sharp, but I'm sure your printer will come out pretty decent as well using a regular paint jet. And in order to deal with the water, the decals, after I print them out, and I put a very light coat of that Rust-Oleum white. In this case, I used white, clear matte. So that way it gives it a little layer of protection from the water. Otherwise, your ink will obviously run if you don't have some kind of coating on it. So you can use gloss, clear gloss. I use clear matte because it's going to be matte. So anyways, this is warm water. Some people like to use a sponge and they put the decal on the sponge. I just like to just go ahead and just dunk it in the water because, again, the clear coat is protecting it pretty well. And then I use this micro set. And this the micro set basically kind of softens the decal up. In this case, it's pretty flat, and it's a smooth layer that's gloss, that's really easy to slide over. So I don't think I'm going to need it. So I'm not going to bother. So I'm just going to put a little bit of warm water here. Okay. And you see a little bit of white around the edges because I use white paper, decal paper, but you can easily, once this dries, you can easily take a small little fine bristle of a brush and paint the white with flat black. All right. So again, I'm not going to worry about the white outline. We're going to take that out really easy with a little brush with flat black paint. So you won't see it after we clear coat it with matte. Okay. So that's this side. Let's get to the other side now and do the same thing. Okay. So we got that side done, that side done. So I'm just going to do the back, put this little tiny logo in the back, and then we'll clean up any of the white paper that's showing with a little black flat black paint, and then we are set to put the final couple of coats of clear matte on it. Okay, we'll leave this dry for an hour or so. Okay, so we're on the home stretch. I basically cleaned up the decals, put flat black paint over any of the white that was showing from the white backing, and clear coated it with a matte clear coat. So all the gloss went away. You can see it's all nice and flat black. So one little thing that I hadn't mentioned is I got rid of the plastic wheels. So this now has rubber wheels and tires. And basically what I do is I get a little wire cutter and I cut the axle and then take out the old wheels. And then I slip in a new axle because I bought wheels and axles off of eBay quite some time ago. So you have an axle, you got a couple of wheels, okay, and then you just slip the axle and then just cut the axle to length and slip it in there, and then I just put a little. You can use baking soda and a super glue to create a little mix that is formable, and then you just put it over the little clips there. You'll figure it out once you take a look at one, because some are metal, some are plastic. So anyways, so we replaced the wheels. I had some weld wheels. Weld used to be pretty hip back in the day. But anyways, these happened to be just the right size that I needed. So I stuck with these. So got the decal on both sides here and the logo on the back door. Could have probably made the logo a little bit bigger. Painted the tail lights, painted the headlights. I was going to paint the front grille as well, but I changed my mind. So anyways, it's a matter now of just putting this thing back together again, which should be very simple to do. And yeah, let's get this thing going here. This engine that keeps getting in the way was stubborn to take out, and it's going to be stubborn to put back in, I can see. Here we go. I painted the base flat black also. Okay. And we got that in there. We got the little screws. So we can screw the base back in now. I like using screws rather than epoxy or glue because you never know when you want to take this thing apart again for whatever reason. Maybe remodify it later. Okay. All right. So there we go. That's the final look. I could paint the baseboards, I guess, flat black, but I just wanted a little bit of contrast, so I just left them gray. Not that you're going to really notice them anyways. So the hood goes up and down. And here's the cool thing. So now we put it back. I put a decal in there with this shop name. And put this back in the blister. And then we will use just regular white glue. We'll take a toothpick and we'll just glue around the edges here to get the glue back in. I'm going to lift that hood up a little bit more. But you see what it looks like. That was the before, and here's the after. All customized. So, like I say, you don't have to go through all the work that I did here to strip the paint, take it apart, repaint it. You know, I showed you how to take the decals off using lighter fluid. Make some decals, put a new decal on there, put it back in the blister, and you're going to make someone's day, you know, so quick and easy. So I hope you got some ideas out of this. I wanted to do something just a little bit different. Like I said, I used to customize Hot Wheels back in the day. So there you go, man. Make someone's day, make them happy. Life is short. Live for today. Enjoy it. Peace out.